Namaskar. Well, friends, I heartily welcome you to Bhim Bhashya, my audio video podcast series on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. This audio video podcast series has 54 short speeches on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, unraveling as many as 25 different dimensions of this multifaceted genius. Friends, this podcast series is focused on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, his thoughts, his actions, his philosophy, and above all, the kind of grand vision that he had shown for the entire country. This is what this podcast series is all about. So let's move ahead. In this episode 21 of Bhim Bhashya, I am going to talk about the emergence of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar as a political leader. Let's begin with the political backdrop behind this development, which changed India's political history. Under the Government of India Act of 1935, provincial autonomy was going to be inaugurated through election. The Government of India Act of 1935 conferred new responsibilities on the legislative councils, besides widening the franchise, and granted the untouchables the quota of reserve seats as per the Poona Pact. Dr. Ambedkar quickly reoriented himself. He reoriented his strategy to position the depressed classes in this new emerging institutional framework. In view of the proposed first ever provincial elections, in 1936, Dr. Ambedkar formed his first political party, and he called it Independent Labour Party. Let's look into the broad program of the Independent Labour Party. In an interview with Times of India, Dr. Ambedkar declared that, having regard to the fact that the present was no time for the parties communally organized, he had broadened the name and also the program of the party so as to permit political cooperation between other classes and the depressed classes. Asked what prompted him to select this particular name, Independent Labour Party, for his political party, Dr. Ambedkar explained that the party would be independent of every other political organization, although it would be ready to cooperate with any other political party where cooperation was possible. The party was a labor organization in the sense that its program was mainly to advance the welfare of the laboring classes. And I quote him, "The party believes in having a correct ideology suited to the section of people whose interest it regards as paramount." The word labor is used instead of the word depressed classes because labor includes the depressed classes as well. Unquote. As to the broad program of the party, there are various sections where he has clarified the position of the party. First was the issue of working of the constitution was the first issue. Explaining the program of the party, Dr. Ambedkar said that it had been formulated after mature consideration and in consultation with all those who were interested in it as far as the new constitution is concerned. And the program said, and I quote, "The party recognizes The new constitution is full of defects and falls much short of full responsible government. All the same, party believes in working the constitution. Turning to economic questions, Dr. Ambedkar stated the party will undertake to establish land mortgage banks, agricultural producers cooperative societies, and marketing societies with a view to improving the productivity of agriculture. In the opinion of the party, the principal means of helping the agriculturists and making agriculture productive consists in the industrialization of the province. The manifesto says further, and I quote, the party will therefore endeavor to rehabilitate old industries and promote such new industries as the natural resources of the provinces will permit. The manifesto further says, and I quote, to raise the efficiency and capacity of the people, the party will endeavor to undertake an extensive program of technical education. The party accepts the principle of state management and state ownership of industry whenever it may become necessary in the interest of the people. The party will endeavor to remove all obstacles to free and full life and to alter, amend, or abolish any economic system which is unjust to any class or section of the people. The manifesto says, and I quote, the party will endeavor to provide for the workers, agricultural as well as industrial, a minimum standard of living compatible with civilized life. In fact, this is exactly what he did later when he became a minister in charge of a minister member of the Viceroy's Executive Council, which we will be discussing much later. I go back to the manifesto. The manifesto further says, for the benefit of industrial workers, the party will endeavor to introduce legislation to control employment, dismissal, and promotion of employees in the factories, to fix maximum hours of work, to make provision for payment of adequate wages, for leave with pay, and as many amenities of life as possible. The manifesto goes on to say, the party will also introduce a scheme of social insurance which will provide the workers against sickness, unemployment, and accident. Party will endeavor to provide cheap and sanitary dwellings for the workers. For the benefit of the agricultural workers, the party will endeavor to extend, for the benefit of the agricultural workers, the party will endeavor to extend to them the same benefit which it proposes to secure for industrial workers with such modifications as circumstances may require. In the economic section, the final point that is made by the manifesto is that, and I quote, the party will undertake legislation to protect the debtor class from undue exactions, usurious dealings, and fraudulent transactions of the money lenders, and endeavor to tackle the problem of rural indebtedness. The third set of recommendations in the manifesto, they relate to the taxation problems. There, the manifesto says, and I quote, the party definitely recognizes that the present system of taxation is unjust and weighs heavily on the poorer sections of the population. The party will endeavor to rectify this inequity in the general system of taxation. The party has great objections to the present system of levying land revenue, and it will undertake legislation to make it more equitable and more elastic. Turning then to social reforms, the manifesto says the party will undertake legislation for advancement of all necessary social reforms to prevent social reformers from being outcasted by the orthodox. The party will undertake legislation to regulate the administration of the public charities with a view to preventing the mismanagement and misapplication of the charity funds, and to secure the use of any surplus that may be left over to the advancement of such secular purposes as education. The party will undertake legislation to deal with the problem of beggars and other destitute persons. The manifesto goes on to say that the attitude of the party towards rural reconstruction is as follows. The party will endeavor to make village life cheerful by providing as many amenities of life as possible. The party will endeavor to improve village sanitation and housing by introducing a scheme of village planning somewhere on the lines of the town planning. The party will endeavor to establish village libraries, village halls, village radios, and rotary cinemas in order to modernize the outlook of the villager and to make him a progressive person. Then about the educational issues, something which was very close to Dr. Ambedkar's heart, the manifesto goes on to add that the party will endeavor to provide facilities for higher education in India and abroad by means of state aid to deserving persons from communities which are educationally backward. The party will undertake legislation to reorganize the university education in the presidency by establishing regional universities and to make them teaching universities. Finally, when it comes to the administration, the manifesto says the party will endeavor to see that the administration is good, efficient, and free from corruption. To secure the ends of good and efficient administration, the party will endeavor to secure separation of the judiciary from the executive. The party will also endeavor to prevent the administration from becoming the monopoly of any single caste or community. Consistently with the efficiency of the administration, the party will endeavor to bring about a fair admixture of all classes and communities in the administration of the presidency. Dr. Ambedkar addressed a big meeting of Samata Sainik Dal in Mumbai on November 8, 1936, before the election. And I'm going to read a part of that, quoting him directly. Dr. Ambedkar said, and I quote, "Today, Congress presents the picture of a motley crowd. Congress is not the party of the peasants and workers. Congress is the protector of the capitalists. It is difficult for the Congress to protect and safeguard the interest of the working class and the common people. As opposed to this organization, our Independent Labour Party stands for the protection of the weaker sections of the society. The main purpose of our party is to fight for the interests of the untouchables, the working class, the poor, and the deprived people of our country. Elections. Elections to Bombay Legislative Assembly, the first time, they were scheduled for February 1937. On his return from European tour in mid-January, Dr. Ambedkar started his election campaign immediately. He toured all the districts of Bombay Presidency and delivered election speeches in Nasik, Ahmednagar, Khandesh, Solapur, Satara, and Belgaum. As an example of Dr. Ambedkar's election speeches, probably the one in Nashik, which was given on January 17, 1937, is a typical one. And he said, and I quote, "We now have an opportunity to appeal to the council about our grievances. Although our practice till date has been to address our grievances through government officers, from now on we shall address them through the legislature. It is extremely important that your representatives to this council should be a most deserving one. We have to select a person who will be capable of effectively presenting the problems faced by our society and will fight for us. Legislature is an instrument of self-defense." Well, the elections did take place in February 1937. In the first ever general elections held to the Bombay Legislative Assembly, held in February 1937, the Independent Labour Party had fielded 18 candidates in the Bombay province, 12 on reserve seats and 6 on general seats. In addition, 14 candidates ran for election in the central province. The new party, Independent Labour Party, had a good showing. 15 candidates were elected in Bombay province, of which 12 were from the depressed classes. The Congress nominee to oppose Dr. Ambedkar himself was the then famous cricketer P. Balu, whose name was actually Balu Palwankar, but he had changed to conceal his untouchable background. Dr. Ambedkar was elected himself with a thumping majority, and thus he started a new inning as an elected legislator of the Bombay Legislative Council. Earlier, if you remember, 1926, Dr. Ambedkar was appointed by the government as a member of Bombay Legislative Council, and he worked very efficiently, performed very well as a member of the Bombay Legislative Council. And when the first ever general elections, the provincial elections, were held in 1937, Dr. Ambedkar was elected with a thumping majority with 14 of his colleagues, and there began his new career as an elected representative to the Bombay Provincial Assembly rather than Council. Well, friends, let's conclude this session here now. We will meet again real soon. But before I leave, let me remind you, if you like this audio video podcast series, please like it, share it, and subscribe to it. So long until we meet again. Thank you. Namaskar.